So today we're going to be talking about sex, drugs, and alcohol. Just kidding, no we're not. Hey, we're Michael and Christina, and we're here to help you see how simple your health can really be. But seriously, we're not necessarily talking about that. We're going to be talking a little bit more about sugar and our sugar story, because similar to drugs, sex, and alcohol, there's a lot of addiction that goes around there. I could definitely relate to being somewhat addicted to sugar when I was younger, and I have a whole story around that. But do you want to chime in on your story about sugar and how it plays a role in your life? No, she doesn't. So then I'll go first. Basically, the best way I could describe this is growing up, my parents were pretty diligent on not allowing us to have sugar. And if they did buy those things, they would hide them in cupboards, and we'd have to go MacGyver around trying to find where they were hidden to be
hidden under baseboards?
Baseboards, behind cupboards, under plates, covered in behind the towels, in the most ridiculous places. Oh yeah. They'd hide them in crazy places, and I just knew they were in the house because I knew that they bought them or they left the house to go get groceries.
What would they buy?
I don't know, little
M&Ms
candies or chocolates or M&Ms, or not even M&Ms, maybe jelly beans or something, just something small, right? Nothing big. Or occasionally chips, and all of a sudden the chips would be oh, where'd the chips go? And they wouldn't be in the standard places in the kitchen, in the cupboards or whatever. You'd be okay, well, I know they're in the house, but they're not in the kitchen, so where the hell are they? So eventually you just go start searching around the entire house. You're looking in the towel closet. You're looking
where are they? I know they're in
here. You're looking
in
the bedrooms. That's the start of an addiction, I would think. But no, not really. But what I figured out was that that whole process for me, and even my brothers and sisters, or my brother and sisters, was that because we didn't have it a lot, and then we'd go to a friend's house, and our friends would basically have, the cupboards would be full of whatever, snacks and goodies and all these foods that are basically forbidden for us. We would just go crazy, and they'd be do you want some snacks? And we'd be and then we would just eat it all basically. So what we figured out is that because we were limited when we were at our house, it was a free reign. We went to other people's houses.
My sugar story is I realized that it got to a point where after every meal, every time I ate, I would just, I'd want some piece of sweet, some piece of chocolate, or some sugar, some cake, whatever.
Post-meal, right?
Post-meal. And I was
after dinner, or after lunch or something?
I got to the point where I realized that I didn't have control over kind of the cravings, and realized that that's something that I wanted to break. I didn't want to be dependent after every meal to have some sort of sweet. And so when Mike decided to quit sugar,
reduce drastically the amount of sugar I was eating, because I knew I had a problem with it. I couldn't have it in the house when I was an adult and living by myself, because if I had it in the house, it was destroyed. So I get it. It wasn't quite, or it was habitual for you to basically have those sweets after having a meal, right? Is that what you're saying? Sorry to interrupt, but yeah. I steal the show, it's my show.
It's mine. So yeah, that was the reason why when you came to me and you're okay, I'm doing this thing where I'm quitting sugar, naturally, as your partner, I was hell no, am I quitting sugar? So I was super reluctant, super resistant to it. And then I saw that you started to experience a lot of the benefits, and I was wait a second, there's something in this whole reducing the amount of sugar in my diet that I was okay, I guess it could be a good thing. So I eventually decided that okay, I'll give this a shot. And for me, it was probably 2 years. I think you, it was 3 years without, we were super diligent. We cut it out, and we were really strict. We would go to family and friends' house, and we were known as the people who didn't eat any refined sugar, and we were really...
But we had fruits and stuff, and we'd, maple syrup and honey, and we'd still make snacks, protein balls, or I don't know, oat squares or nut squares or whatever you want to call them. We would just make sure that we use more natural sugars as opposed to white sugar or basically any refined sugar, and we would avoid any packaged foods, basically. So what's the whole point of sharing this whole story of our basically entire life related to sugar? Things have changed, right?
They have. About 2 months ago, we had a friend who challenged our ways. She challenged why it is that we were so drastic on sugar. And personally, it made me realize that I had attached a really intense feeling around good and bad foods, and sugar was really bad. And so I would see sugar and like part of me would say, oh, I kind of really want that, or I like want to taste it. But I would see that as like, oh no, it's not good. And so I've been digging more into the psychological aspects of what it means to say yes and no in a really strict way to certain foods. So in the last 2 months, we have reintroduced sugar into our life. So to our family and friends who know us as like the no sugar people, this is gonna come as a surprise, but like, hey, we're all full of surprises. What I've noticed is that I'm more in tune now to the signs that my body is telling me. And after we eat sweets, there's always like, my body just sends like a of like, hey, here's what I want.
That's the real sound that comes out.
That's exactly the sound. Not so much caution, but more so like, bing! That's the sound. It's that mind-body connection that I've been learning about that actually allows me to say, okay, what is it that my body wants right now? And how can I fuel it in a way that's not restricting myself from a piece of cake if I want it, but it's being like, do I want it? Or is my body's like, no, actually I'd prefer fruit, a plate of fruit, or I'd prefer salad right now. So that's what this whole experience has taught me, is just not being addicted to sugar, because it does have the addictive properties. And so after a meal, not feeling like I need the sugar has been really nice. 2, being able to tap into the mind-body connection of what my body actually needs. And 3, do I have a third point? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think we needed to cut out sugar for 3 years, but it was a really interesting experiment. Oh, this is what I want to say. I've realized that my mind is so freaking powerful when it comes to my health. I am more powerful than the addiction to sugar. Is the one.
So the control.
Yeah.
You are in control as opposed to
Yes.
the sugar or the hormonal effects in your body.
Yes.
Instead of that being in control, you're like, no. What's actually going on? I'm gonna make the decision.
Yes.
I'm not gonna let the cravings or like all of this stuff that's going on inside me. That's basically what you're trying to say? As you're sweating all over the place.
It's dripping.
But basically, whenever we're craving sugars or we're craving a lot of sweets, it's not our bodies that actually want it or crave it. It's our mind or our emotions, either filling the void of avoiding emotions and eating as a result, or our mind is just like fixated on this sugar, or we have that like, chemical, whatever it is, dopamine release from having a sugar, even having a taste of it, and then all of a sudden it's like the floodgates open and you just want to have so much, right?
Yeah.
So that control being basically completely relinquished from ourselves, and it's something that a lot of people have lost control over, and that's why they say I'm a sugar addict, and it's probably why I used to say I was a sugar addict.
Being able to regain control over our health. And I don't think we needed to go that drastic of removing it altogether, which is why we don't teach that. But being able to say, okay, how do you reduce the amount of refined sugar and processed foods so that it's not a central focus within your diet. You don't crave it. You don't seek it out. If it's there, it's awesome. But it's not like I need to have it. That like urge.
Yeah, not a central part. I like that. Because
Yeah.
it just forms all the control in your eating habits, basically.
Yeah.
Hormones. It all comes down to hormones. That's basically it. I don't think I have anything else to add. You?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. So that's our sugar story. Now you know everything about us. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, shoot them in the comment down below. Otherwise, we'd love to hear your sugar story, how this relates to you, or if you can resonate with this, or if you have any kind of family growing up story about sugar and being restricted and going to people's houses. I feel like I'm not the only one. So let me know if I'm not the only one. Sound groovy?
Sweet.
Cool. High five.
Well, bam.
Oh, I got scratched by a tree. But because you're in Bali, it takes forever to heal. I think that was like 2 weeks ago.
Did you run into a tree on your motorbike?
No, I just walked along the street and there was a tree that
Did
just
you not see it?
jumped out and scratched me in the arm.